Hi, how are you today? So, I'm gonna try not to make today too long because I gotta do some shit. But I wanted to get on here and bitch because one of my videos was like flagged for copyright issues or whatever. So, I wanted to go over fair use application and regarding to copyright infringement. And I also wanted to discuss like kind of and show the email that I received as well about it from YouTube, and then discuss the content that was flagged and show you the content that was flagged. What I think I'm gonna do is try watching the video, but then pausing during the parts that I didn't interrupt previously, and perhaps discussing why I didn't interrupt at that time. Um, and then I'll also talk a little bit about the greater context of the video that was flagged and where it was being used, and you know. So but on that note, I did redo that video, and that is linked in the description of this video. And that's the What the Fuck Wednesday about musicians not getting paid to play at the Super Bowl. So in there was a segment about income disparity in the music industry regarding, I forget what the headline is, but if I'm remembering off the top of my head right, or actually I can check real quick. Let me look at this. Drag this here. So it was about um, musicians only make 12% of the music industry's revenue by For the Record. So I was watching that video, and that video got flagged. Well, the part of the video I was watching that got flagged, I didn't rewatch that, but in the video that's linked, the What the Fuck Wednesday that I redid, the second one, that is linked in the description of this live stream, I do show the rest of the beginning of that video that I did. And so today in this live stream, we're gonna watch the rest of the video, if that makes sense. Because I really like the points that I was making, so I used all of my intro up until this footage for this, if that makes sense. So, whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna fucking roll my intro, and then we're gonna get into some copyright sources, and then I'll show you the email, and then we'll watch the video. So yeah, appreciate you. Hi, my name is Lexi, also known as and doing business as Deaf Child. In 2022, my company was listed as number 14 Best Louisiana Events Companies and Startups. I have been doing business as Deaf Child since 2013. I have my Bachelor of Science in Music Industry Studies and Business Administration, and deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. And I've got about 50 certifications in marketing and sales that you can find at noladeafchild.com. Alright, so first things first, I kind of want just to go over like general copyright in general. Because I do believe in the concept of copyright mattering in terms of like it provides legal protection for art regarding consent and compensation for their work and the use of their work. I think that is really important. But I also think the ability to critique something, to have commentary on something, to, educate others regard using something to do so, things like that are also very important. Um, and it, I don't know. So today we're gonna discuss fair use, and different sources, what they have to say about fair use. So from copyright.gov regarding fair use, they have like a little blurb about fair use, and it says that fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright protected works in certain circumstances. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of uses such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. I feel like what I do kind of qualifies among research because I always link all of my sources for everything I can find in the comments or the description of my videos. And I typically use the sources in order to show a greater context of a point. Um, and the only time I typically use one source only in a video is if there's just so much to cover in that source that it took up that much of the material. But typically, like, the way I use sources, it's combining sources in order to illustrate a greater thought process of mine. You know what I'm saying? And then it says, as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Section 107 calls for consideration of the following four factors in evaluating a question of fair use. The first is purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of a commercial nature or is for nonprofit educational purposes. Um, if you want to think about how, on some levels, it could come back to me where, like, um, I do marketing and I use my YouTube channel to promote my marketing, and I have my website here. So on that level, perhaps you could say it's commercialized, but at the same time, I'm not using it to promote myself. I'm using it with the purpose of education, and I'm not getting paid to do so. Even if the content ends up monetized, I was never paid to do this, right, as of this time, and that was not the purpose of the content creation for it. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to spread the word about what I'm learning in order to um, help people make decisions for themselves about value alignment in the industries that we're working in. So then it discusses nature of the copyrighted work, and it goes on to discuss whether or not um, because it's saying that, like, if it's, if it creates like a creative expression such as a novel or a movie or a song, it's less likely to support a claim of fair use than using a factual work such as a technical article or news item. So that's another thing. Everything that I was discussing is all facts. So on a certain level, if you want to if you want to argue that I was commenting on other people's um, conversation, we could say perhaps that is their idea, their ideology is their creation of their creative expression of their speech. But on another level, when you discuss how they are actually, I'm reviewing, I was, critiquing in academia other people in an industry's opinions and knowledge on the facts of the industry. On that level, I feel like it's more of a factual work where it's, more in relation to using a source in order to illustrate a point. Because it's like, if you don't provide the evidence from the sources or show the sources of what you're talking about, then people think you're just making shit up, you know what I'm saying? Or you don't have the evidence to show what you're talking about or whatever. But then if you use the evidence, you show the evidence, you're accused of not being creative or original enough. You know what I mean? So it's like, what the fuck? You can't win. And if you don't have the evidence, it could be defamation. But if you show your evidence, they're like, well, that's my material. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Or that's what I don't get. And then it goes into the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Well, I never used or was like watching, I was watching the whole things for some of this material, but I also comment on it. So I feel like as much as I watch, I'm commenting on, and that's why a lot of my content can be so fucking long, because I'll be watching things at like double speed and then commenting on it. So a lot of times what I'm saying is twice as much as what they said because I watched them on double speed. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. So it's like, also it's like a relation to where it's like, if I'm showing pieces of what you're saying, it's because I fully believe that there was an education from it, or it's evidence to show that other people are saying these things. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my issue. Is it's like, at what level are we gonna set a limitation on how much of a copyrighted work someone can use to make a point. That can create problems, in my opinion. But all right. And then the last is effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Well, their video has thousands and thousands of views. It's several years old. All of those people are doing very well in their career. My video, not that many views. I don't even think it got like, I think it got like 20 views before it was taken down. And I'm a very small channel. None of this impacts their income. None of this was negative about the people in there in any way. I think. I don't think it was. I taught shit on Business Insider, but that's different. Fucking things like that. So these are reasons where I feel I can argue that I don't feel that like I was outside of the copyright use based on, you know, information available to me. And so I'm not gonna spend too much time going through the rest of sources, but I did just want to show them real quick. I've got another one from Stanford Libraries, and they also discussed regarding transformative purpose. And I do feel that what I do qualifies as transformative use. And they say most fair use analysis falls into commentary and criticism or parody. And I really do feel that I fall into the commentary and criticism aspect of that. Um, Copyright Alliance also has a really good purpose. I was reading the word purpose and I said it. A really good article on fair use. And it really reiterates a lot of the things that we were just discussing. Um, but one thing where it says there are no bright line rules in determining fair use because it's determined on a case by case basis. So that's also, interesting to consider. And then with copyright.gov, they have frequently asked questions about can you use someone else's work and can someone use mine and all of that, and I feel like it's a really good um, informational material on just information about the public domain, copyright infringement, like how do you claim copyright and all of that. And I link that in the description of the video. Um, but yeah, fucking there are it does discuss, the circumstances under the fair use doctrine where quotes or samples can be used without permission. Um, And then it says, how much of someone's work can I use without getting permission? That's what I want to talk about. It says, under the fair use doctrine of the U.S. copyright statute, it is permissible to use limited portions of a work, including quotes, for purposes such as commentary, criticism, news reporting, and scholarly reports. There are no legal rules permitting the use of a specific number of words, a certain number of musical notes, or percentage of a work. Whether a particular use qualifies as fair use depends on all the circumstances. Because here's like another thing I don't get, because like with fair use qualifying for education, one thing that you'll see is like in school, you will get like we would be passed out material for that would be considered fair use, like books printed off online, for example, things like that. Or articles printed online that were passed out, given to us without permission to use it in terms of copyright distribution, but it was only for education to the students. So under fair use, we did read the entire fucking thing, the whole fucking thing, and I feel like that should qualify for fair use, for example. So that's like where it ties into on certain case by case basis. I don't think it should matter how much of something you use for it to qualify as fair use or not. It's just my opinion. Um, if it's transformative or educational, you know what I'm saying? Or news reporting, like actually critiquing or commenting on shit you did. You know what I mean? But transforms it in those ways. Well, okay, so Penn State also has a blurb on fair use. And it has it's one of the lines says used for one of these purposes is not automatically fair, and uses for other purposes can be fair. So that's just something else to consider too. Um, and it goes back into those four factors we've been discussing. And an example it gives is art criticism. And it does discuss how art criticism requires reproducing the art for fair use. And I also feel like how I was critiquing and adding commentary onto what was being said in the video we're discussing should apply to this. My opinion. And the last article source that I have on fair use that I want to take a look at real quick is from Stanford, and it's just about measuring fair use with those four factors that we've been discussing. And it also says that right here, because a judge has a great deal of freedom when making a fair use determination, the outcome in any given case can be hard to predict. So, that's also a thing. There's no hard and fast rules with all of this, and so yeah, but all right. So then the last thing that I want to show you guys in relation to all of this is an email I got. Um, so whenever that happened, it gave me a live stream copyright notice, and then what we're gonna watch next is the material I got the copyright notice on, so you can decide for yourself whether or not it was fair use. And we're gonna see if it lets me. And we're gonna try it. Fuck. If this goes down, that's like it got taken down because of this shit. But fucking so I got this email and it says due to a copyright match, your stream was interrupted. And it links to the stream I'm discussing. And it says streams are interrupted when copyright content is detected. After a copyright material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. Sincerely, the YouTube team. And I didn't get any strikes or nothing like that on my channel. It just took the fucking video off live stream. Um, but then I reused part of this same video that I got flagged for using again in a different live stream. And I mean, no, well, I did a new live stream about the whole same damn thing. And in that live stream, we rewatched the beginning of this live stream, and like, look, oops, and it all worked out. So like, I don't fucking understand what the fuck happened there, right? Um, and so what we're gonna do now is watch. We're gonna do watch the rest of this live stream, but we're gonna watch it on twice. I might do 1.75 because I talk fast. And then if I notice that I increase the speed on here, then we're gonna change the speed back down a little bit. But we're gonna test raising the speed, and I'm gonna pause. Like, part of the reason I think I got flagged on the copyright regarding fair use was I could have paused a lot more to comment and interrupt them more when they were speaking, but I didn't because I wanted to hear the fucking points they were making. So what I might do today is pause and interrupt them more because of the goddamn copyright shit, and just fucking discuss why I wanted to highlight these points that they were making. Um, so in the greater context, reiterating that as well, the original video is about what the fuck Wednesday, musicians not paid to play at the Super Bowl. So the first about 10 minutes or so of this video, I played again. Um, if you go look on my YouTube, a totally different live stream on the same topic with the exact same sources is up. And in that live stream, I played the beginning of this one. Um, if that makes sense, because this one got taken down. And so I just redid it. And then the rest of this video is what we're gonna watch now. And we're gonna let you decide, and because the rest of this video is what got flagged as copyright infringement, and so you can decide for yourself if you think this should be considered fair use, or if you think that this is copyright infringement in order to protect their ideas, or if you think it's fair use in regards to commentary, education, and critique, and news reporting. Um, so in the broader context also, where I was using this material was to discuss income disparity in the music industry regarding how musicians have not paid to play at the Super Bowl and how football and the music intersect regarding disparity. And so that's where it all connected. So that's another thing too. Like I wasn't just using this video and that's it. Like it was connecting in a greater chain of events and thoughts and in context of other articles. And it was a follow up to the concept of how performers do not get paid to perform at the Super Bowl. And the follow up for that was regarding how musicians only make 12% of the music industry's revenue. And we can thank bitches like Spotify for shit like that. So, anyway, back in. Alright, so we're gonna watch this shit. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. Well, not really, but kind of, we're gonna watch this shit and see what happens now. Look at this shit, like, damn. So, from there, I want to look at this video from For the Record, published by Genius, about musicians only make 12% of the music industry's revenue. And I feel like this is like a good follow up for everything that we've been discussing right now.
Blows up and has, a song on the radio or a song that goes viral or whatever. One of the good things is being able to say, okay, I'm going to go to this label, I'm going to see what they have to say, I'm going to go to this label, I may try to do something with this company, Apple Music, directly, however it goes, but it's good that you have those options, you know what I mean? If these people start getting together and making these major corporations, it's kind of like, will I really benefit the artist or will I harm the artist? Because now they can't use their leverage to actually play these labels against each other.
And I'm just pausing, just to discuss, like, why I wanted this to continue playing is because she is discussing how deals are made in the industry and the knowledge she has um on how deals are done on the back end is just the type of shit you can't just go like even the average musician doesn't have this type of access, this type of knowledge to the types of deals someone like her has been behind. And so it's like in this scenario, I'm not going to add a critique or a commentary on her sharing her lived experience on closing deals in this industry when I can let her teach me a fucking lesson and then discuss what the fuck I learned after that and why that matters in regards to income disparity. That's where I was going. Um, because she's been discussing how the way deals are made, how not, and the way the way the music industry is built off of leveling up to where you get a team to where before you can get certain deals made impacts the average musician's ability to just go get out of income disparity or get the resources to get specific things done. And if I'm stopping you to interrupt this fucking shit, you're not gonna be able to connect those dots in the same way where she words it, where it's so much better, so much more professional. And so I do feel in this type of situation, there should be leeway to use somebody's words to illustrate a point and not have to fucking interrupt it in order not to be flagged for copyright. Because after she's done fucking talking, then I make my point about how this connected for me in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And let's see if you agree with me on that in a minute.
Each other or whatever the situation may be,
Sounds
Also, I feel like this could be a little bit slower, so I'm just going to put the playback speed on 1.5. Um, the volume's a little low for me too, so I just raised it up for me. Hopefully it's not too low for you guys. All right.
messy.
Yeah.
What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record, and I'm your host, Rob Markman. Now, today's show is a very important one. As much as we talk about the creation of music to
And to a certain level, it's like fair use would have me believe that, okay, maybe I should just pause it or not use this intro or whatever. But I felt it was important to use the intro because I wanted the names and the titles to be introduced on the people who were speaking because it was important for me to set the background on their authority in this industry and why I felt their background mattered in terms of having that perspective behind closed doors. Oh my God. doors. Shit, I can't speak. Behind closed doors. The fuck am I saying a deer for? I'm like a deer in the headlights. Um, Behind closed doors that other people wouldn't fucking have. You know what the fuck I mean? And so, and what am I gonna do now? Interrupt them, be like, yeah, that's not your fucking name. Show me your ID. Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? But anyway, all right, let's.
Artists by how music is made and how it gets delivered to us. The music business is really just as important. Now, last week I was pretty shocked, man. I read a Business Insider article which revealed that musicians only get 12% of the $43 billion the music generated in 2017.
And that's what I'm saying. So, on a certain level, I understand because as a marketer in the music industry, a lot of people want me to do free labor for them. And it's not that I don't value them to want to help them for free, but there's only so much work I can do for free. You know, I need to be compensated. So, I also understand how anyone in the music industry can be undervalued and underpaid. Um, and so, when we look at the music industry, there is a very big need to also address the people who support the musicians and the music industry that are also underpaid. But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. The musicians are the ones who are most exploited in the music industry. And that's also why so many people in the music industry who want to be musicians, who can make music, are doing other things in the music industry to still be in the music industry because they can't afford to keep investing their resources into making music when they're not getting paid enough to keep doing it, you know? And meanwhile, you have like major corporations profiting off of all of the musicians, and that's where the billions of dollars is going. It's not towards the average promoter, it's not towards the average marketer, the average musician, the average sound tech, you know. It's going towards AEG, Live Nation, Harrah's, like the major corporations and billionaires involved in funding the major shows and the record labels and things like that. So when we talk about issues in the music industry, a lot of us who are these key players in the music industry can feel so passionate about why are you talking shit in the music industry, because that's who I am, right? But we have to look at when we're looking at these issues, you're not the billionaire fucking shit up. So in my opinion, it's like if you understand what it's like to be struggling to make it in the music industry, why can't you criticize it? And that's where I come into conflict with a lot of people in the music industry. They don't like it when I talk shit quote unquote about the music industry like this, where I'm discussing the income disparity and the legal issues. They're like, oh, why are you criticizing it? And I'm just like, well, why aren't you? Are you really happy with how things are? Because I don't understand how you could be. You know what I'm saying? And so if you notice, we're 1 minute into the video. It showed me when I had paused up there for a second. It was 1 minute into the video that we were watching, and then I just talked for over a minute. And so when I'm doing this type of commentary, yeah, we'll be using their shit, but then I'll be saying just as much shit about the shit that they just said. You know what I mean? And so for me, I feel like that's what makes it transformational from using the sources to illustrate the source material and show evidence for there being additional lived experiences or perspectives that align with the material that I'm discussing. Isn't that not the point of academia? Or is that not the point of news reporting or commentary or even just freedom of expression and freedom of speech, is to be able to discuss what is happening and what are our community and peers doing in the industry and what are they saying about this industry? I think that's important. Like, people should be able to comment on my shit if they want to, whether or not I agree with it. You know what I mean?
I reacted crazy.
You know, and on that note, I will say I do have opinions about in regards to discrimination. If you have no lived experience on an issue, I don't think you should be speaking over people with a lived experience on that issue. So if it comes to like a deaf issue, I don't think hearing people should be uh, doing commentary on deaf people, for example. So I do think there are things like that. But you know what? That's a whole different discussion. We're just discussing strictly copyright law and fair use right now.
I saw a lot of artists react crazy, a lot of industry people react crazy. And so I decided to bring a panel here to discuss this, all right? First up, we have John Lynch. He actually wrote the article for Business Insider, which was based on the City Group. He's the entertainment editor over at Business Insider. John, welcome to For the Record.
Thanks for having me.
Now, next up, we have an entertainment attorney. She is one of the stars of the WE TV show, Money, Power, Respect. Actually, the only reason that I watch Money, Power, Respect is to see Tiffany Ballard.
And that's another thing, is it's like I'm not about to pause and interrupt their grand like introduction. Like, I need to let you guys have it sink in who the fuck these bitches are and put some fuck, you know what I fucking mean? Like, I shouldn't be calling them bitches. I apologize. I did not mean to be disrespectful. I'm gonna work on that because I keep doing that where I'm like calling random people bitches. I'm like, bro, I gotta stop. I'm gonna call the wrong person a bitch on the wrong day one day. But and now I've got Anderson Paak in my head.
Man, what's up?
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And then one of my favorite MCs from Brooklyn, maybe I'm a little biased, but he just released his new album called Crown Fried. Sitting right next to me is my man Dime a Dozen. Dime, welcome to Genius for the Record.
Respect. Thank you for having me.
Nah, man, thank you for coming. I wanted to get, because everybody has different expertise. John, you work at Business Insider. You really kind of synthesized the Citigroup report that blew this up and made it look viral. Tiffany, you represent so many artists, producers, and songwriters that work with big artists like Beyonce and Drake and Kendrick Lamar. So you're in here crafting these deals and fighting for your artists to get their fair share. And Dime, you're just out here on your independent grind and hustle. You're actually a musician. You don't have a 9 to 5. This is not a side hustle for you. Music is what you do. So I wanted to get all these three perspectives. John, I want to start with you. Just the article that you wrote for Business Insider.
I'm gonna have a real hard time. Like, okay, I kind of have a hard time with Business Insider content because I still follow them and I read everything they put out. 'Cause I'm kind of addicted to understanding the way that they are marketing to people who want to be entrepreneurs and businesses and profit and capitalism. But that's why I struggle with Business Insider concepts because like I struggle with the leanings towards which they promote. I struggle with towards the leanings towards which they promote like how to earn money. I feel like they don't truly in some of their articles. I feel like in one article in particular really stands out to me. I feel like they kind of will basically be like, here's how I can make money and here's how I got it done and how you should too. Get your parents to buy you a house. Go stay with your grandma and rent out the house that your parents pay for you. I don't know why you're not out of debt like me. That's kind of like the vibe I get from their shit. And it really, so like I have a hard time taking Business Insider seriously because a lot of their shit is not applicable to the day-to-day person. But like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm just bitter. Blah blah blah. But that's kind of how fuck I feel about them. But the other two people, I'm really interested in hearing their perspectives, man. And also, maybe I'll like this dude more than I think I will. Maybe I'm just have a bad attitude towards him because of the Business Insider thing. Maybe he just needed a fucking job. That was his fucking job. He's actually not that bad. But fucking yeah, I'm still gonna talk shit on Business Insider because fuck him.
Can you give us a summary of what it was about?
Yeah, so I read this Citigroup report you were talking about, and I was like taken aback to see, as you said, 12% was what artists were making of this 43 billion that the music industry was generating in total, and basically.
I do think that dude could use a bit more prep with PR and public speaking. I'm sure he's a relatively good writer. I actually didn't even read the fucking article. I just watched this video, but maybe he's a good writer. I don't know. He's good enough to get paid for it. But fucking yeah, just for someone to ask you about the article and then to just kind of repeat the headline, it's kind of like, yeah, we know that already. But I don't know. Maybe I'm like overly bitchy, but you know what? If I wouldn't have to be overly bitchy if I could allow people to speak for themselves and then comment after and not have to add additional commentary. If I'm gonna find something to comment about, now I'm finding something to comment about, and that's just nitpicking, is it not? Um, and I've already discussed why I feel the commentary I made originally was in and of itself should be fair use. So perhaps rather than trying to nitpick more about this video, maybe I should try and remember what am I here for? It's because these bitches, the copyright YouTube fucking thing, I don't know, whatever, I can't even use words, I'm so annoyed. The YouTube thing is like accusing me of copyright infringement or whatever. So here's why I feel like it's not copyright infringement, because me trying to find more commentary comes out like that, where now I'm just fucking bitching. The commentary I left initially was the commentary that should be left. Those were valid critiques about the industry. Anything more than that, I have nothing more than that to say at this time, but I feel like what I did say should be considered and qualified under not, a mix of the education, news reporting, commentary, and criticism, and I do believe that it was transformative. Um, so yeah.
That 12% is like up from past years, but it's mostly due to touring. So artists are nowadays mostly making their money off of touring as opposed to purchase music, which is like down quite a bit, and streaming.
Right.
Is
But
like
we're being told every time you look around that Drake is breaking streaming records. Bruno, Taylor Swift is like keeping her thing off streaming, really selling real well, and then going back to streaming. Like, but we keep getting these stories that in the streaming era is really a good time. They brought the money back to music, and which is cool. But it's like, Tiffany, where does the money go? Like, I just knew you.
Well,
And this is a greater reason why all of this connects to the video I'm talking about. Like, we're discussing where does the music money go in the music industry. Well, what the fuck are we looking at here? We're talking about income disparity in the music industry. So to not be listening to industry experts on where the money is flowing in relation to income disparity, I think is not paying attention to what is happening. Um, so I feel like that's why this matters. I don't know.
Oh, right. Well, I wanted to. No, I'm kidding. Um, a part of it, I would say, there are multiple people and entities that have, their hands in the pot. You have to pay a personal manager, business managers. You have labels, you have publishers, you have, accountants, you have attorneys. So I would need to know the exact, I guess, methodology behind, I don't know enough of what went into, even when I think about artists, I don't even, I think from what I read in the article, they're talking about performing artists. But, all performing artists don't write their music. So sometimes some of that income may go to songwriters. They may go to producers. I'm not really sure exactly what all went into the article and the data that they used, but there are.
I like that she's discussing how a variety of factors go into the artist's career as well as into the types of sources that the article could be from for how to better discuss these numbers and why. Because a lot of people they don't understand how the music industry works. So the way she breaks it down, I think is a really good introduction to people who haven't had more experience with what happens beyond just the listening to the music or going out to shows.
Are a lot of hands in the pot before the artist.
One basically good point she's really making right now is what goes into an artist's income is very dependent on every single artist specific situation because every artist builds their business in a completely different way. And to some extent, yeah, there's like a routine and procedure with record labels, promoters, like the roles she's naming. But every artist acquires and builds their teams at different paces to them, and these are just places they can evolve to. So that's another fucking really good point she's making. It's like this is going to depend also entirely on the artist's setup.
Get paid out. It gets paid out. Makeup artists, barbers, there's a lot. Drivers.
And operating costs. The labels have operating costs. The streaming services, the retailers, the DSPs all have operating costs that have to get recouped before any creators get to see a dime. John, just going back to you, was it clear to you within that Citigroup report, it said musicians receive 12% of 43 billion. Was that all musicians? Was this just recording artists like your Beyonce's, your Bruno Mars, and not necessarily the songwriters, producers, and session musicians who play on the album?
It seemed to me like it was all encompassing. Like it was like, yeah, any, I think producers were included in it too. But yeah, that's one of the things that I know this article the Citigroup report kind of got criticized for like overgeneralizing a bit. So I'd be interested to like really hear what that 12% was.
So this is the part that gets me where I think he's flip-flopping here. I thought it the first time I watched it and I still think it now. He starts off by saying, like, answering strong as if he's confirming. He's like, yeah, because of this, and this with the question. And then he flips it around to, but I'd really like to hear what that what number was. He's saying what that 12% was a part of. I'd be interested to hear. But then he had just said, let's rewind it. Let's do a replay here. Let's do a replay. What was that, my sir? He said, it got criticized for generalizing a
overgeneralizing a bit. So I'd be interested to like. It seemed to me like it was all encompassing. Like it was like.
So he said it seemed to me like it was all encompassing. And then he says, but I'd like to hear. All right. So I guess where he says it seemed to me, he's saying I'm making assumptions. So I'd like to know. All right, now maybe I'm criticizing too hard. I can't tell if that's a bad criticism on my part where he's trying to play it off like he knows what he's talking about and then he's admitting he doesn't, or if this is just across the line an admission that he actually never, only ever assumed and never knew. I can't tell which way that's going, but I don't think I'm wrong for like me picking up something here about there being a little like, so you admit you don't know what you're talking about here. Either way, right? Like, my opinion. I don't know. Yeah.
Like yeah, any I think producers were included in it too. But yeah, that's one of the things that I know this article the Citigroup report kind of got criticized for like overgeneralizing a bit. So I'd be interested to like really hear what that 12% was a part of. Like who is getting that money necessarily.
Right, and we're going to get into that too because Billboard just recently published an article kind of as a rebuttal to the Citigroup report. And
Okay, okay, so I'm guessing the dude didn't write that Business Insider article then, even though he works for them, because the dude that he was just talking to works for Business Insider. He was asking the dude about the article. I thought he wrote the article, but the guy was like, "Yeah, I'm really excited to see what these numbers mean." And in my head, I was thinking, "Didn't you write this shit? Shouldn't you know what they mean?" But I guess he didn't write it, or if he did, I'm like, "Bruh." But at least he could admit that he didn't know what the fuck it meant. I don't know, but I was like, "Oh, I think that's kind of funny."
And the headlines that are out there. I know the RIAA is asking people to look at it differently. But John, man, I want to get to you because I think one thing in Business Insider you guys use, and we understand this, use the image of Kanye West as the thumbnail image, as the lead image for this, and with
Okay, and so and keeping in mind how this all connects, and I wanted to get some points made, and my original intent, where I was going when I was originally doing this, was I was going to get some points made and then show how it all connects through my sources. But I was trying to show how the flow of money works in the music industry so I could then, when I'm explaining the income disparity in the music industry behind why musicians even perform at the Super Bowl if they're not getting paid to perform it, you would have this background information to then know how it's all set up, how it all runs. And that was the whole fucking point of showing all of this.
all due respect, Kanye is going to be fine. Financially, Kanye, your Beyonces of the world, your Bruno Marses, your Jay-Z's, these artists aren't starving at all. Dom, I just want to talk to you because you're an indie artist from Brooklyn. You just released your album Crown Fried.
Crown Fried, not serving.
Yeah, there you go. And I just wanted to know, first of all, is music, for me, for example, I work here at Genius, and then I released an album which Tiffany helped me, construct the contracts for and get my legal thing. So, music is kind of my side thing. And I still got to maintain the 9 to 5. Music is all you do. Music is the only way that you work, the only way that you eat, the only way that you get fed, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an artist.
And then I just want to pause here, and that's another reason that I wanted to show um, more of like not interrupting and letting these people speak is I thought it was really important to let an artist who has actually been able to um, fight income disparity, to build a career in the music industry doing nothing but music, explain how that worked for him. Because the whole point of this, the whole point of even discussing income disparity in the music industry in relationship to marketing and sales in the music business is so we can work to fight it, so we can work to have more resources and understand the causes of what is harming us in order to resolve those issues. So that is why I felt like it was important to let this dude fucking speak and not interrupt it in the original live stream I did that got taken down. And the reason I'm pausing now to interrupt that is to explain why I didn't then, in relationship to why I believe this should fall under fair use.
First artist, MC. That's my passion. But at the same time, like you said, living a life, you gotta live. But that kind of like forced me into not forced me. I enjoy like doing jingle. I did something for Domino's like jingles and other songwriting opportunities and things like that. So like when I first saw like the article, I thought like 12%. Like damn, like what would like Cool Herc or like these guys from like back in the day like think about this because it's like and then like knowing the fact that it's all because it like the bulk of what the artists are, what they're generalizing that 12% to be artists, producers, the fact that it's touring, it just shows that this is like a change in time. Like the digital age is like, it's more about like the connection to the artists and the fans besides like this big.
And right there, I thought that dude was wrapping up, so I was getting ready to hit pause in order to add context to his conversation. But when I saw that he was still speaking, I didn't want to interrupt that flow of thought in that moment because I appreciated the way he's explaining to people how he builds the brand loyalty and the connection of the audience.
Everybody hands in the pot type. Hey, we need teams, but at the same time, it's like I feel like the consumption is different nowadays because it's like we're directly connected to the people that want to hear us.
Yeah, I was really liking the points he was making about how touring shows the way that people want to connect to you through touring really shows how the digital age has transformed the way humans want to connect because through online social media we can connect with each other directly, so now there's less of a need for the intermediaries there were previously to get people artists media's out messages out because we can do that ourselves through the media. um and so that's also transforming the way the industry is working, and so right now this 12% gap, I actually think there could be a future in which artists are through the media are able to build their own careers for themselves and not rely on these middlemen until it's more profitable for them to um, outsource for additional work that they no longer want to do, not because they feel pressured into following a system because that's what they're quote unquote supposed to do, but so that they can do what feels good for them. So I really like how he was talking about the transition and how artists are naturally moving that way, and the numbers kind of show that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
A couple of points. I know in the article it mentioned.
Right, and another thing that I was thinking of, which totally unrelated, well, it's related to fair use. It's not necessarily related. It could be related a little bit to the music industry and relate in relationship to how the fair use applies to music as well. But another point I just thought of in fair use with like monetization of content and whether or not that should apply to fair use. In my opinion, a teacher is still getting paid to teach, even if they're providing content to you under fair use for the purpose of education. So why shouldn't a news reporter or a content creator still be able to get paid in order to therefore, you know what I'm saying? Making a living and getting paid to do the job you're doing and provide the value you're doing, I think is completely different than monetizing off of someone's content. Like if I just downloaded this video and I put it on my website and I was like, you gotta pay me $5 to watch this shit, I would totally agree that's copyright infringement. But where I'm taking what their valuable information is and transforming it into why I'm explaining the impact of income disparity in the music industry to lead us to where we have a multi-billion-dollar Super Bowl where musicians are not paid to perform, how we fucking got there. This fucking explains it to me.
Though, which I thought was interesting, that the 12% is actually an increase. And back in 2000, it was actually about 7%.
7%. Yep.
And I know they did say it was from touring, but mostly from touring because now they tour. But I didn't understand it fully, only because now there's also 360 deals, which didn't exist back in the day. So now they're actually participating in touring income where they would not have in the past, they being labels.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit confused as to why now, because artists have always toured. I mean, we go back to, I don't say back to Mariah because she's still relevant, but Whitney, so many people, Michael Jackson, when didn't they tour? So I don't know why they would say that now it's increased because of tours, especially when now labels eat off of tour income too, whereas they didn't in the past. It was mostly sales. So
Yeah, they were saying that the tour, like artists are touring more.
I don't think, I mean, I understand what she's saying. I don't think it's that. I think it's about now more artists have the ability to tour than they did previously, to where now the total income generated in the industry is off of touring. Not that any single artist is touring more or less, but now that there are more artists able to tour because more people are actually able to make a living, or even if not a living, make some form of income for themselves off their art if they want to by promoting themselves. You know what I'm saying? Through social media and building that business. We are seeing more people be able to express themselves through their art. Because we were never able to see that before ourselves, before we had that internet connection. You know what I'm saying? Before that, it was only who had the funds to get televised or on radio. So now that we have the internet connection to see who all is out there being creative, we can therefore build those people who are creating can therefore then build those audiences to go create more shows and stuff than were previously possible for themselves. In a way, is what I think is where that gap is.
Or to get like more revenue and just that the growth of like tours is skyrocketed. I was looking at this graph and it was like past 5 years or so, it was like a lot of money.
Well, it goes back to this thing. I think there's like these general reports, right? There's always these, and I hate these articles. Millennials killed Applebee's. Millennials killed. But one of the things that's important to this generation that it seems to reports is experiences, right? Like this generation much rather pay for experiences. So while we technically
Honestly, I'm glad millennials killing Applebee's and all that shit is bullshit, right? Because millennials never had any financial control. Applebee's making poor financial decisions killed Applebee's. Red Lobster making poor financial decisions killed Red Lobster, okay? Millennials had nothing to do with that shit. Millennials didn't own that shit. Those are boomers and some Gen X's, but mostly fucking boomers. You know what the fuck I mean? And not all boomers, not all Gen X's. And I hate this whole war where we got like millennial and Gen X hating each other. Like if it weren't for Gen X, we wouldn't have the American with Disabilities Act. We wouldn't have the 504, thing. And boomers, I'm sure some boomers are chill. We just hate most of them. But fucking, there were things like if you look at the history of civil rights movement. That's where some of the good boomers were. Um, but if we look at history, all along history, there have always been people in resistance, right? And so I hate this whole concept of where we preach generational wars. I perceive that as ageism, and I perceive that ageism as tied to colonialism used as a tool to divide us. I think that we need to start as older people. We have to be the teachers here. We need to be the bigger people. We need to be the elders, and we need to be raising these kids up to understand that generations have to work together to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I fucking hate anytime someone goes on this whole bullshit of my generation's better than yours. I hate it. If you're making a valid critique about social issues in a context of a generation, go right ahead. I can see that. But if you're just shitting on generations because you don't like someone younger or older than you, suck my dick. Um, you know what I mean? So typically, for example, when we shit on boomers, we're not shitting on all boomers. We're shitting on, the concept of how Ruby Bridges was treated, for example. Still treated today. But things like that. Like when we talk about that, so that's what I'm saying. Like when we talk about like millennials, to blame millennials for Applebee's and Red Lobster closing, or to even joke about that, kind of annoys me because what the fuck did millennials have to do with COVID? That fucked our shit up. You know what the fuck I mean? That took the rest of my 20s. What the fuck are you talking about? Um, so that just kind of annoys me. Like we weren't the ones in control. Y'all fucked that shit up. You're the ones with more money than us, statistically speaking. Why the fuck aren't you out there saving your goddamn Red Lobster and Applebee's? So, but anyway, the way this all ties to copyright law, I apologize. I just got on this fucking rampage. Um, and fucking, but yeah, dude, when I'm talking about how the generation would rather pay for experiences, I do agree with that on a certain level where this generation doesn't care about a name brand. We care more about how we feel about something and what we experience with a concept than, like previous generations. Like, I feel like Gen X was really all about the name brand, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking about every single person who's Gen X, but I'm just talking about what has been promoted to us and how we were socialized in, raised in mainstream society. And I think everybody can speak to that to a point, right? Like we can name most of us can identify more car brands than we can trees, for example. You know what I'm saying? And I think it stems from all of that. But all right. Um and yeah, fucking that's me for right now, like interrupting based on this idea. At the time, I wasn't just pausing to interrupt based on things that he was saying because I was literally trying to discuss the relationship for this with the Super Bowl ad impact only. Um, Due to copyright infringement, I want to add more commentary now because I believe that commentary of an ideology and the sharing of opinions constitutes fair use. And so that's why we're having this discussion today. Let's connect that. There we go. Okie dokie. We're going to keep watching this bitch. And we only got like right about 5 more minutes left of this material until the live stream was ended on me.
Aren't paying for music. If you're streaming, you're paying for the access to listen to music, but you're not paying your own music. That it seems that fans are willing to go out more and pay a little more for a concert ticket. Drake and the Migos will be coming to New York in a couple of weeks, and I think they got about 6 or 7 dates. I think like 4 dates in MSG alone. Like, those are running into like Billy Joel numbers and things that we used to see from these touring giants. Tiffany, I want to go back to you because a lot of the clients that you represent are songwriters and producers, musicians who can't tour, who aren't able to make any of this touring revenue that this touring boom that we so hear about. How do you navigate that with your clients? How do you make sure that they get their fair share?
Okay, I'm actually really excited to see this answer because fucking I was just thinking also like that still doesn't negate the fact that income disparity still exists. So even though more artists are able to now tour, we're able to see them put themselves out there. The ones we're seeing get out there and tour more are typically the ones who already were in that upper bracket of income disparity. So that still doesn't account for how the people in lower income um, disparity or sectors, I don't know the right words to use, I'm broke as shit. So how do people who are broke as fuck like me, uh, get out of that cycle in order to have sustainability in their careers? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I want to know, and so that's what I'm looking forward to in this answer.
One thing I try to do is because how do I go without being so technical? Okay, so in terms of producers, let's say, right, you have these things that are called producer decks where you sign, you say, okay, you can use my song, I'll get half now, and the other half of the advance later. We'll work out the technicalities later. One thing I try to do is say, okay, let's not do a deck and let's go straight to the long form agreement. That way you have leverage, because once you sign this deck, we can argue back and forth about points all day long about what the splits are going to be, who's going to actually, how the sample is going to be allocated, whether or not the artist is going to actually, whatever it is.
And this point right here, where she's discussing ways for artists to negotiate for themselves, a lot of artists, they don't know how to do this for themselves, or by the time they get to a point where they can do this for themselves, it's often, passed on to somebody else to do it for them, to where it's on somebody's hands to negotiate. And so a lot of artists are actually able to, for one reason or another, do their own negotiating. And I think that's actually why it's so under important to understand what is a good negotiation. So that way, if you have to do it yourself, you know how to do it better. But if other people are doing it for you, you're better able to understand what is it that they should be doing to actually advocate for you. So that way, you are able to provide yourself with the best person in that role to negotiate on your behalf. Um,
So one of the things I try to do is to go past the producer deck aspect and go straight to a long form that we can agree that, negotiate the actual points. But a lot of it is leverage. I mean, it's what was your last hot track? Who have you worked with? This client is not going to take, he's not willing to take this percentage because X, Y, Z. He got this percentage on a different deal with, an artist who's much bigger than the artist that you're talking about right now. So why would he be willing to take just 10% from you when he got 50% from a Grammy winning artist? You know what I mean? So really it's just looking at the facts, looking at the leverage, and actually being willing to go, to forego the producer deck, which gives you more leverage, and to just stick it through and just
I really love what she's talking about too, where she's talking about ways you're going to negotiate with them. She's literally saying, because whenever you look, this is what you were able to get from this deal, and this is how you got paid from this deal, and then she's factoring like what you're gonna put into it. She's literally showing the talking points of how you would actually execute negotiating on cost-based, value-based, and market-based pricing, and I really, really appreciate that.
Negotiate up front is what you're saying, like designing it out up front.
No, I'm saying don't do the deck. Don't do the upfront. Because some people need that, that first half of the advance.
Right.
Forego that first half of the advance and get the entire advance. Once the long form is done, because then you still have the leverage. They can't put that song on that album until you finish that long form. Whereas if you sign a producer deck, they can use that song on that album, and you guys can fight for the next year about the second half of your advance and what the terms.
And where I also think that this all relates to the Super Bowl in terms of like how artists aren't paid to perform there. The way the industry is built to where so many artists will play for it, even though they're not getting paid, just to say that they're playing for it. Um, and because there's always going to be artists who will take that role because they want to do it, whether or not they're paid for it. But if we start raising, because they were raised up with that mindset that that's what they need to do to make it in the industry. But if we're able to transition to where we're raising people up in the industry with the mindset, this is how we're going to negotiate for ourselves, this is how we're going to advocate for ourselves, this is how we're going to get paid, I think that's how we take that power balance and use the power of the media, the power of the control that we have in order to transition that. And that's the purpose of showing this material, to explain that. You know what I mean? But I wasn't able to make that point because of it being flagged and taken down.
Are going to be of the composition. Why do that?
Sounds messy.
Yeah.
John, I want to get with you because the Citigroup report has, and we mentioned a little bit, faced criticism. I know Billboard wrote a couple of articles, the RIAA.
I think this is where it was taken down. You see how it's paused right here in the video? I think that this is where it was automatically paused by YouTube, and this is the point where YouTube flagged it. So I want y'all to reflect on whether or not you guys think any of this has been okay. So at that point where that happened, I had then gotten a notice, where it had like flagged and paused. I had gotten this pop-up in my back end about how the whole fucking thing was taken down and blah blah blah. And so that's where I realized that, and that's where I was like, okay, am I even streaming anymore? Because it was showing me you are no longer live. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna close this shit out, and that's what you saw me doing right there. Um, and then I restarted it, and that's what's linked in the description of the video is me redoing the live stream with all of the same material. And I even played the beginning of what we just watched there too. So, that being said, now it's up for you to discuss and decide and think for yourself whether or not you think that was copyright infringement or whether or not you think that applies under fair use. You know what I think. I think it does qualify as fair use. And I think it's fair use because I'm using this source material to explain how the industry works. So when I'm putting that in context of the other sources that I have regarding how the income disparity in the music industry got this way, you can understand why musicians are not paid to perform at the Super Bowl, why I think that's a problem. In my opinion, that's what my intent was and where I was going and how I was trying to do it. Whether or not I did that well in terms of needing to work on communication is a different story. But I believe I'm able to show how that is where I intended to go. And I think that what I was doing should qualify as fair use. And I think that having automated tools that would identify this to not constitute as fair use could be harmful to the idea of freedom of speech and the idea of the public being informed of information in general in regards to what is happening in our industry and business and behind closed doors, you know? um and it's also about being able to have commentary and ideology and freedom of expression on what people are promoting out there in regards to what it is they are doing, being able to discuss that. I think it's really important. That's just my opinion. Feel free to let me know what you think. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And yeah, we're gonna close this bitch out because I'm a little hungry. I think I'm gonna make a grilled cheese. So yeah, I hope you're taking care of yourself. Don't forget to floss your teeth and all that good stuff. Okie dokie. Have a great night. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. You might want to adjust the volume after all of this because a loud music is going to play. So yeah, adjust the volume. And then if you're coming to these lives anyway, I do have a loyalty program, yolo.child.com/loyalty. If you sign up for my site as a member and you follow the check-in procedure, you can get points just for showing up to these lives anyway. So I just want to let you know about that. Yeah, I always have a really hard time saying goodbye because saying goodbye really just kind of feels like you're Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Over here, just like Wilson. But anywho, yeah. So thank you for being here and goodbye.